the government facing continued pressure to implement robust intervention to deal with pervasive violence targeting women and children in South Africa. That's as the country deals with staggering rates of rape and intimate partner homicide. On this Women's Month, we decided to catch up with Dr. Lesley Ann Foster, who's the founder and director of Masimanyane, Women's Rights International, who joins us now via our video link, just to keep this conversation going. And Dr. Lesley, it's great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for your time and your patience. This is certainly not a new discussion, but regardless of the conversations, sometimes the interventions and talks of conferences, it doesn't seem we're able to put a dent in the fight against the scourge of gender-based violence. I wonder where you reckon some of the cracks still are.
Yes, I believe that we are facing a huge problem because, we have the political commitment where the president has said that gender-based violence is endemic in the country. But if you look at the response to the pandemic and you look at the response to the gender-based violence pandemic, which has taken so many lives, you will find that the responses are not the same. They're not balanced. So while we have the new national strategic plan on gender-based violence, we have made, as a country, there's been political commitment to addressing the issue. The truth is that it doesn't go wide enough or deep enough. What we need is for the state, because the state is the only apparatus that has the ability to reach far and wide into the country, to start a comprehensive campaign that addresses harmful norms in our society, that addresses toxic masculinities, that addresses attitudes and behaviors that are negative towards women. One of the main drivers of gender-based violence is inequality, gender inequality, where women are viewed as having less power, less control, and less value in our society. And there are not enough attempts anywhere being made to address those. As NGOs, we have small, initiatives. I say small because even though we think the initiatives are big, they are limited in terms of where we can, what our reach is. But the state has got the ability to. And as yet, the state hasn't started a campaign to address gender inequality within our society. That's the real issue. And you will find that across society, women still are very, very lowly rated in communities. They still have to be they still have to, listen to others in terms of decision making. They don't have the agency that's required. And this is not just about women, but when we talk about these prevention programs, we're talking about how to deal with unhealthy masculinity in our society. And there are very, very few attempts to actually address that. We have initiatives that are addressing males, but it's not about shifting power and it's not about raising the profile of women, the status of women in our society. So to me, those are the key drivers. And then one of the other issues is a lack of accountability.
Absolutely. In my mind, we can't really shift the dial on this without really unpacking what masculinity looks like. Often we've heard that we need a multi-pronged approach to at least make an impact. And I suppose this is an opportunity to speak to us about the organization that you form a part of and the work that you are putting in to hopefully try and, contribute to the resolving of this issue.
Right. Well, Masimanyane Women's Rights International has been going a long time, and part of what we do is to advocate for policies and government programs that work together to end violence against women. So we've had a lot of gains in that respect. The National Strategic Plan is a massive gain. The Gender-Based Violence Response Fund is a big gain, for us in this fight. But again, I say, as society, we have a shelter. We can take 15 women in that shelter when there are hundreds of thousands of women that need that kind of support. We are out in communities and we reach communities through prevention programs, which we can deliver on radio, which we take into communities. Now, the most effective way we believe to change attitudes and behaviors is in one-on-one engagement with communities and community members and communities leaders. So we do a lot of that kind of work across the Eastern Cape. But still it's limited, and there are very few organizations that in fact, I don't know of any organizations that can have the reach that the state has got. We do counseling of rape survivors. We run 2 of the Tutuzela care centers in the Eastern Cape, and that's very effective work. But when you see children as young as 2 and 3 coming as rape survivors, it's very disheartening. You realize that the problem is really across the lifespan of women. You also see older women, up to 80 years of age having been raped by close family members. Those are the kinds of situations that are really frightening to us. But I think the most heinous, of course, is the killing of women and the trend now to dismember women's bodies, and this kind of thing is very devastating to families. And we don't see at all a difference in that. The latest statistics I heard recently was that there are 11 women killed in the country every single day. That should send all of us into a frenzy of activity to stop this. Yeah. But it's almost as if it's normalized, as if it's accepted. So we fight against this. We bring, these programs, awareness raising, marches, candlelight ceremonies. Wearing one color or the other does not change attitudes and behaviors. It doesn't take us anywhere. And we have to stop that kind of symbolic, fighting against gender-based violence to something that has greater depth and greater, reach than just those kinds of things that make people feel that that they're actually responding and that they're making a contribution, but they're not. And I think that's where the difference lies now.
Sure. Speaking about this violence being normalized, most recently there was a lot of talk around a prominent woman who has now spoken out about the alleged abuse she apparently suffered within the context of her relationship. And I found interesting part of what she mentioned, and I won't mention her name because that's beside the point. Part of what she says is that a lot of people just don't understand the psyche of somebody who finds themselves in a violent situation, because more often than not, the response from people is, why didn't you leave sooner?
Yes, I think women carry the shame and the blame for the violence that they suffer. And that's a very deep obstacle, a very clear obstacle to why they don't respond in the way they do. And women, it's again relates back to the status women have in society. They're not believed, and we're dealing with the young women now where that has been the case, that they suffer this abuse, but even if they report it, they're not believed or they're told to keep quiet about it. So our society is not willing to hear women, to believe women, to trust what they say, and then to act accordingly. Because mainly they are told, you are embarrassing yourself, you're embarrassing the family, think about the man, think about his job, that sort of thinking. And that's where the prevention programs have to change the way in which our entire society deals with this. It's very, very difficult for women to talk about this because they are silenced. And we talk about breaking the silence as one of the sort of bylines to ending gender-based violence. It's a difficult thing for women to do. It's a difficult thing for girls to do. And when you talk about the violence, we're seeing, the statistics now that we've had over 100,000 teenage pregnancies in the country in the first quarter of this year should send everybody reeling in shock, because some of those pregnancies are child pregnancies. You can't call 10 to 12-year-olds where there are over 900 of them that have already given birth. You can't call that a teenage pregnancy because that's not a teenage pregnancy, it's a child. And you don't hear about the arrests of the perpetrators of statutory rape. So it's that kind of thing where even those little girls haven't got the language, they haven't got the concepts to report something like that. What they know is something's happened to them which is wrong. They are not participating. They haven't got the agency to stop it. They are confused, and we just let it slide. That's unacceptable as a society. It's an indictment on all of us in the country. We are failing the children and young women of this country.